Thank you for downloading our second 2021 offseason episode of the Orange is Orange or Browns podcast for the Press Play Podcast Network. This offseason will be featuring a different Browns backers club at the start of every show. We're doing this for a couple reasons. One, the Cleveland Browns have the absolute best fans in the land, and we want to recognize the faithful and loyal all over the world. We have this network of people who gather together and experience this team week in and week out, and we want to highlight those communities. Also, these groups do incredible work in the communities they're in. We want to highlight all the good they're doing and show how they help people. It's truly remarkable. And for this episode, we want to highlight the Big Apple Browns Backers Club in New York City. Led by club leader Noah, this club meets at the Liberty Bar on 29th West 35th Street, one block from Herald Square. The Big Apple Browns backers claim to be the most exciting chapter in the entire country, as they serve as the New York City Cavs bar and New York City Indians bar for all playoff games as well, with over 500 rabid fans in attendance. Any given NFL Sunday, they got around 300 fans in New York City shouting at the game for the Browns. The Big Apple Browns are active in their community by donating all merchandise proceeds to the local animal shelter, and I just ordered a Big Apple Browns crew sweatshirt. It's going to look fresh. They've been able to raise over $5,000 the last 2 years. Great job by the crew in the Big Apple. You can follow the Big Apple Browns backers on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and all other social platforms at Big Apple Browns. Again, that's at Big Apple Browns. And make sure to check out their website at bigapple.browns.com. And don't forget, they meet at the Liberty Bar on West 35th Street. They hope to see you there. Tell them the Orange is Oranger sent you. Also, want to take time to give some shout to the Press Play Podcast Network. Just incredible stuff going on over there at pressplaypodcast.com. The past month, we've launched 2 new shows. The first one is a show all about CBD oil and THC. This podcast is called the Phenomwell Cbd Podcast. You can check it out to learn all you need to know about, well, CBD and THC, its health benefits, its legal journey and process, and everything else in between. The Phenomwell Cbd Podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. We also launched a brand new network show, and I'm super excited to announce the Premier Fantasy Podcast with Tito. This show will bring you fantasy football, basketball, and baseball insights and opinions from media fantasy expert and Jeff Tito Thidoff, formerly of 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. He was on the radio. We got him here on the network. If you play fantasy sports and you want an extra edge to bring home that championship, make the Premier Fantasy Podcast a regular part of your podcast routine. The Premier Fantasy Podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also launching 3 more shows. That's right, 3 more shows over the next 5 weeks. So make sure you keep your ears and eyes peeled for those announcements. You are going to love what we have coming down the pike. In this episode, Jeremy and I talked to Hall of Fame NFL wide receiver Terrell Owens, and what a delight. Easily in the pantheon of interviews we've had on the Orange is Orange. So many great nuggets. Tio was just the best. We talk about his new wine label, 81 Vino, transitioning to life after football, his storied career, and his thoughts on the Browns, Baker, and OBJ. You do not want to miss this episode. Jim Donovan, take us away.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They block the kick!
This is the Orange is Orange or Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, as always, Browns insider Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, what's cooking, brother?
Hey, Chase, what is going on, man? 2 weeks from the new league year starting in the NFL, a bunch of stuff going on, but we have a extremely special guest today. Chase, why don't you introduce him?
And I think you're underselling it just a little bit. Let me read off a little bit of what we got here. 6-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 3rd in NFL history in receiving yards, 3rd in NFL history in receiving touchdowns, all-time Hall of Famer, T.O. T.O., what's up, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Want to talk about a couple things going on. Before we get to football and the Cleveland Browns and all of that fun stuff, something that I'm super intrigued about, you are partnering with the Lasorda family and launching a wine label, 81, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tio, what brought you into the wine business? What led you to that path?
Well, I mean, obviously with the pandemic, that we're approaching we're almost at the year mark. But, during the pandemic, everybody was kind of just kind of just lost out there and just kind of didn't know what to do. Didn't really know what the next move would be. And I was, in the same boat as everyone else, and you're kind of figuring out, how the world was going to react to this pandemic, how we were going to cope with things being shut down or what have you. And so we all just started kind of venturing into different things with all the idle time. And so with that idle time, a family friend of my marketing rep, Max Lepscepter, who is with Max Management. This came about just through an organic mutual conversation that they had. I was a client of his, and so he asked if I was into wine, and I told him, I was like, yeah. I said I'm more into the whites, the sweet versions of wine. I'm a Riesling type of guy, Moscato, dessert wines. And so, they asked if I wanted to collaborate with the Lasorda family. And obviously, the late Mr. Tommy Lasorda gave me his blessings for this collaboration. And so I was on their list for consideration to do this partnership. And so once I agreed, I got my hands dirty. I got all off into it. And so I started doing a little research, and I asked them to send me over some information about what we were going to be doing. And so when you think about the wine family, you think about a Cabernet. Cabernet is very, very popular within the wine community. And obviously one of the characteristics of a Cabernet Sauvignon is it's big, it's bold, it's dry. I didn't really particularly like my experience with wines initially. When I tasted the red wine, it was really dry, it was bitter, it was pasty. And so this process of partnering with Mr. Tommy Lasorda, they asked me kind of a series of questions of kind of like what fruits did I like, what I did and didn't like about the wines that I tasted. I gave them that feedback, and that's how we came about, and we came up with 81. And so we started with a base of a red wine. And so with mine, I started out, this one is complete with a ripe black cherry. It has cinnamon stick aromas. And then, like I said, if you have a palate for plum preserves, dark chocolate, and a spicy toasted oak, 81 is the wine for you. And so this wine right here, honestly, we've done very well since we launched at the top of the year. The feedback that I've gotten is that it's smooth. Even people that even haven't even drunk wine or, not particularly in the wine, they bought it and they supported me, and they've been very impressed, with the taste of it. So it's not going to give you that dry taste, that the Cabernet family is kind of really known for. The tannin is, there's a lot of wine out there that's dry, and that's what I didn't want. And so this is really tailored around kind of like my taste. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of wine drinkers out there, they will kind of think our palate is pretty similar. So this is what you're going to get. It's made up in Pasolini Winery. Terry Colton, he's the winemaker who also made the Lasorda family wine as well.
Well, I absolutely love it, and I feel like Tio, we have a very similar wine palate. I like a sweet wine as well. And I gotta admit, man, looking at some of these promo pics, you are looking fresh, bro. You are looking super fine, and just make it look great holding that wine. Where could we buy some 81 if we were looking to support you and get a taste for ourselves?
Well, I thought you'd never ask. You can find my wine. It's online only for right now. Obviously, we're working on getting some distribution and obviously hopefully get into some stores. But as it relates to where we are right now, the state of where this country, the world is, we're only online, and you can find 81 on 81vino.com. That's 81vino.com. And so funny you mentioned the pictures from the website. I drove up to the winery. I took about a couple of days off, drove up to the winery, got to tour the facilities. Terry Colton basically kind of took me through the whole process of of making the wine, basically kind of showing me like, the process in which, the grapes are stripped of the skin, how it's all pressed, all types of stuff, man. I was blown away. Got a chance to taste some other wines as well, some rosés and some sangrias. And obviously, like I said, the success that we've had thus far with 81, hopefully we're looking to do a 2018 as well.
Cool.
So I'm very excited about this. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to share this wine right here with your audience. So I appreciate all the support and love that I can.
Of course, man. I'll go. We'll put the website in our show description, show notes. So everyone go to make sure check out 81vino.com, purchase a bottle or two. And that'd be great. Tio, when you talk about touring a winery, I'm a big SNL fan. And on one of the Jimmy Fallon sketches, they do a wine like touring sketch, which is about like soaking corks for the bottles, but the way they say it, it's really, really funny.
Really?
And you can maybe imagine. I'll text it to you, and it's a pretty good laugh. So,
and speaking of corks, again, that's part of the creativity that I added to this wine. So once you pop this bottle and you open it, you pull the cork out. At the top of the cork, it has my logo, which is also obviously displayed on the outside of the bottle in the gold foil. But on the side of the cork, my autograph, my signature is basically has been burned into the side of the cork. So that's a lot of just a little bit of a little memento for the people, just an experience that people that are drinking the wine, they can obviously remember 81 from. And even just if you zoom in, if you go to the site, you zoom in and look at the bottle and look at the aesthetics. I was very instrumental in obviously the label. The label is very textured. The gold, obviously, like I said, that was one of the 2 or 3 colors that I had chosen. And I just felt like if I'm going to go into this wine space, I didn't want to go in, half-ass. I wanted to go in and make a splash. And the feedback that I've gotten, even from just the look of the bottle, is sophisticated, it's elegant, it's sleek. That's when you talk about those pictures on that. That's what I tried to do. I tried to reflect really kind of the branding of the bottle. So like I said, some of the Cabernet, when you talk about big and bold, and I was describing the tasting notes about dark chocolate, spicy toasted oak. For your women listeners out there, I'm pretty sure they probably thought I was talking about myself, but I wasn't. I was talking about the wine, ladies. I was talking about the wine.
T.O., before the show, we were talking a little bit about that, and I said one of my lasting images of T.O. is on the sideline as a cowboy, camera right in his face with that big, gigantic smile, right?
Beautiful, yeah.
T.O. The big, beautiful smile. That's T.O., right?
Right. You gotta be a showman. To have some character to yourself, and I've often been said to be very charismatic, especially when I'm playing football. Most of my highlights and things, all the trash talking, it was on the sidelines. I never really did it during the course of the game. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I was very instrumental in the aesthetics of the ball itself. When I say 81vino.com, Kobe and I we were good friends, and so I wanted to kind of 81 Vino was sort of a nod toward to Kobe. I knew that in a career he had a collection of shoes, and it was called the Vino collection. And so he was also he was said to be into a little bit of wine himself. So always just trying to pay homage to the late Kobe Bryant, as well as obviously I'm trying to really extend the legacy of Tommy Lasorda, another late Los Angeles legend that we just lost at the top of the year as well.
Yeah, unbelievable. T.O., how challenging was it to transition to life after football? Do you feel like that was something the league kind of helped with, or like it might seem like sometimes some players really struggle with that post-career after the league, man? Do you feel like that was easy for you or difficult?
No, I wouldn't say it was extremely difficult. I mean, as life, as it presents its challenges. I honestly feel that, if I didn't have the career that I did, obviously sitting here as a Hall of Famer today, then the transition probably would have been even more difficult. But you think about, the lifespan of a football player. This ideally is like 2 to 3 years. If that, and I was able to play 15 years, could have probably played 3 to 4 more years. But, given the fact that I was able to become very successful on the football field. What I did enabled me to really open some doors, and allow myself to get into some business endeavors such as this, because of the success that I had. So for me personally, it wasn't that hard. But again, if you're prepared, and I think a lot of kids going into the league, I would especially speak on, African American Black athletes that really didn't grow up in homes where they had a mom and a father that basically, taught them, or were educated about financial literacy and things of that nature. Really transitioning and saw that in the home, in their life, in their everyday life. Then it's going to be very difficult if they're not prepared for it. So again, the league, they'll touch on such things such as this, but I don't think that's not their main focus. That's not their priority. Their priority is really, creating great product on the football field and selling entertainment, which is the NFL logo and that shield to the masses. And so they'll touch on some of these things, but like I said, I don't think they're given enough priority and enough emphasis to really prepare a lot of guys that aren't probably prepared for that transition when they exit the game of football.
Now, T.O., you said you were a charismatic guy. You were a massive, massive star. Was there ever a crazy thing that you were asked to endorse? You're like, well, I can't do that. Like, what's the craziest thing anyone's ever asked you to endorse product wise?
Nothing too crazy. Honestly, I've had some people slide into my DMs and wanted me to do some porn.
That would qualify.
But no, I don't think I'm ready to go that route yet. But there are, like I said, I was mentioning that there are so many things that are popping up, so many social media platforms that are popping up. There's the cannabis space. People are asking about that. There's this crypto currency, things along those lines. There's real estate. Everybody's kind of like nutrition, supplements. I haven't really gotten into that space just yet, although, like I said, I would love to. Obviously, for me, it has to make sense. I want to be able to be compensated, honestly, for my name and my likeness and what I'm going to be bringing to the table. And as I alluded to earlier, when you think about, when we talked about that transitioning out of football into, to the business world, now me being a Hall of Famer, I understand that holds a lot of weight. I understand me going through a lot of ups and downs and highs and lows and trying to really get into some business things, and they didn't come to fruition. Just going through all those challenges, kind of prepares me for the next opportunity that comes around.
So T.O., do you currently still have a lot of relationships from players around the league? Are you in any kind of joint ventures with anybody you played with? What do you got going on in that regard?
Actually, yeah, I just recently connected and collaborated with Eric Johnson. He was a tight end with me my last few years in San Francisco. Eric Johnson is the husband of Jessica Simpson. And so, so we recently just collaborated with this project called Visualizations. And so what it does is really just try to help young guys, visualize kind of what they're doing and really the breakdown of certain routes. And so we do an audio version of a route. It could be a square route. It could be like a go route or an over route or a slant or something like that. And I'm basically talking them through one of my routes from the break of the huddle, what I'm thinking, what I'm assessing, what I'm observing, what I'm seeing in front of me as I'm walking out to the line of scrimmage. And then I talk to them through that route, from honestly, from the snap of the ball, once I engage with the DB, if that's the case, into the route, what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing, and then all the way to the catch. And then once I get the catch, and then, how everything kind of unfolds as I see it. Just so that's something that I'm really interested to see how it's going to do, because when I played the game, that's literally what I had to do nights before the game and even weeks leading up to a big game with my competition. I had to visualize the success that I was going to be having on the football field. So that's something that he came to me with a few months back. And so we finally just inked that deal. And that'll be on podcasts and audio stuff coming here pretty soon.
That is so cool. Are you texting with any current players now? And like, are they reaching out and saying, "Hey, To, like, what do you think of this?" Or do you have anything like that?
Yeah, actually, Brian Dable, the guy
Bills.
over. Yeah, I knew him. Like I said, I'm an Alabama fan, and so I go to the Alabama campus from time to time and step in there and just watch, and I go work out there. And some of the guys have wanted me to work out with them even before Tua became the star that he became. I worked out with those guys, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Cam Sims. And just a lot of the guys, Najee Harris, those guys now. I'll text those guys. I'll reach out to them just to see how they're doing. And so,
That's awesome.
Dable, he called me just the other day, FaceTime me out of nowhere, and basically said he had a guy, I think one of his receivers that he wanted me to connect with, just kind of, so he can learn from me. And so those guys, they'll connect with me if they would like to. From time to time, I've worked out with Odell Beckham Jr. I worked out with him a couple of times over the last couple of years, and so I'm wishing him well with his recovery. I think he's going to come back, better than he was before. I think, obviously with this absence, and I know going through that type of injury, it makes you appreciate the game more. So I guarantee you're probably going to see a different Odell on the field and off the field.
Yeah. Well, hey, Tia, we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk about your career, the catch 2, kind of like your history with the Browns, and then we'll wrap things up. So we'll be right back.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hi, my name is Sam Post, owner of Phenomwell Cbd Store and PhenomwellCBD.com. That's like phenomenal, PhenomwellCBD.com. Tune in where we talk with experts about how the amazing hemp plant can make a difference for people's health and well-being from the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
All right, we are back. Terrell Owens on the pod, just unbelievable. We talked about his new wine venture, wine label 81. Check it out. 81vino.com, correct?
Yes, sir. 81vino.com.
That's right. Hey, so this is a kind of surreal moment for us, T.O. You're talking to two really big fans, not only just like respect of your game, but of your video game prowess as well. There weren't many better receivers on video games, T.O., than you. One of my first memories, man, like honestly, I grew up watching football. I would love to talk about the catch too, that wild card playoff catch from Young in San Francisco against Green Bay. A catch that kind of catapulted your career, correct?
Yeah, I would definitely say that was pretty much a stepping stone to where I am now. It wasn't the best day that a receiver could have starting out, but it's cliche, but they say it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Yeah. And again, it's all about the grind process, and really it's that mentality of when you make a mistake, to shake it off and go to the next one, go to the next play. Mistakes are going to happen, bumps in the road. There's going to be obstacles or what have you. For me, it was a rough day early on, and it continued to get worse. as the game progressed, but I just kept plugging away. And I think there's something to be said about positive reinforcement. And I got a lot of that not only from, my teammates, but just with the quarterback and him being on that football field, understanding he was playing with the greatest receiver of all time. And then it comes down to one of the last two plays of the football game. And he easily could have forced that ball to Jerry Rice. But he's a guy that he's very cerebral. Steve Young's very, very smart. He's stuck to his principles. And for me, it basically should shed light, especially any quarterbacks out there that may get frustrated with receivers or their teammates that may be having a bad day, and you're trying to win the game. Like Steve Young could have possibly, took it upon to try to win the game himself and not stick to his principles or stick to what the defense gave him as far as the coverage and what he saw. And he probably could have forced it to Jerry Rice or Brent Jones or J.J. Stokes at that time. Considering the game that I had up until this point, he basically gave me an opportunity, and I rose to the occasion, and I made probably the biggest play in my career at that time.
I mean, that was one of the hardest hits I've ever seen, man. I mean, if that hit happened today, those players would be fined, maybe ejected. That was just an insane hit. What is it like on the receiving end of one of those hardest hits that you see, you used to see on replay on ESPN?
You don't really think about it. I've gotten that question a number of times. For me, that play, it was a bang, bang play. Sometimes when some plays are calculated, especially with defensive backs and the defensive players, they kind of see the play coming. They can anticipate and kind of load up on a hit. But on that situation right there, look at that play unfold. And once I caught the ball, it literally was a bang, bang play. Like it was a couple of guys hit me at the same time. I know one of those guys was Darren Sharper. And again, they probably was trying to dislodge the ball. But, for me, I've been hit harder than that on probably the most, not even the most crushing looking hits. So I tried to avoid, some of those hits at all costs. I think, honestly, early on in my career, I was running. I was a grown man, but I was like a little kid because I didn't really know what I was doing out there. I understood my principles. I understood what I was supposed to do as a receiver, but playing with, around guys that were just as big and fast as you were, especially defensive linemen, linebackers, dude, I was out there running scared, bro. That's why I had so many touchdowns, because I was running to the end zone quick, fast, and in a hurry.
That's great advice. If you're scared, get to the end zone. Tio,
Right.
Is there a specific guy in your playing days that when you lined up across for him in a game, you knew it was going to be a long game? Is there a guy that gave you problems, a guy you thought was just that good that you went up against?
Not particularly. I mean, all defensive backs, I think, if they're in the top, 5 to 10 cornerbacks in the league, then I especially the top 5, then I figured, they would probably present a challenge. But I accepted those challenges, understanding that, I was trying to prove myself as well, coming from a small school in UT Chattanooga, really trying to represent not only for UT Chattanooga and a lot of the small schools, products out there. But I wanted to try to be the best complement really to Jerry Rice and J.J. Stokes. I was just, like I said, I was just a third or fourth, stringer of a guy, and that really just was trying to find his way until I found my way and found my footing. And then I became the heir apparent, to Jerry Rice. Then that's when my confidence to the point of where even my coaches, they're like, dude, you have a special talent. Like you could become something special in this game. And so once I started to see that, and I started to see the results of my off-season training, my nutrition, and how that optimized my performance. And then I started to see the results, and I was out running guys, and I wasn't known for my speed. I was running through guys. I started to understand the offense, and really the trajectory of my skill set and of my game to become a game changer, a playmaker, a game breaker. That's what I saw in myself. So a lot of guys presented challenges, but I wanted to let them know, like, no matter what school I went to or where I was drafted, I wanted them to know that I belong and I'm just as good as they are or they were. And so some of the hardest hitters in the league at that time, early on in my career, was I think Dale Carter. You think about Steve Atwater. These are guys that I tried to avoid at all costs, and I'm glad I did.
All right. Yes. Hey, now, Tio, you are obviously a unique skill set. We were talking about that before the show as well. But is there a current player in the league now that kind of reminds you of you, guy who maybe plays like you did, or guy with your skill set?
I would probably say I've Julio Jones and probably DK Metcalf from a body standpoint.
DK, yep.
DK is faster than I was, but when you think about the physique, I think everybody looks at him and my body type. That's where there's a lot of similarities, but I didn't have immediately out the gate. I didn't have his speed. If you look at, there's a lot of guys that are 40 speed. They're 40 speed fast, but does that translate, to the game? If somebody can like you saw the speed of DK running down the defensive back that basically had, I don't know about 40 yards on
Bubba
the interception.
Baker. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He went and got him. But now you need to see that speed translate through his routes, coming from a standstill of, transitioning in and out of routes. So that's what I did. You have guys that can run fast 40 times in the combine, and then you have guys that have game speed. So there's track speed and there's game speed. For me personally, when I went through the combine, they didn't see that speed in my 40 time. But if you look at when I played, I had game speed, and I say that I had it. It's on another level because you've never seen me caught from behind, and you've always seen me run away from defenders that were supposed to be 4-2, 4-3, and 4-4 guys.
Yeah, T.O., I really appreciate your willingness to go along with our conversation. I loved your answer to the CB question. You're like, nah, no CBs concerned me. No DBs concern me. Line me up in front of me. No. I got it. And I feel like you almost wanted to say there's no current comp to me because I'm only me and I'm the only TO. And it would have been totally fine to say that, man. It would have been amazing.
No, but I honestly, like I said, I respect the guys, but at the end of the day, it's not really what they do, is what I do.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm always going to have utmost confidence in myself. I think that's how I was able to succeed in the football field.
Yeah.
Understanding that mindset, everybody is built a little bit differently. And you think about some of the mindset of some of the greatest, they don't think like everybody else.
Right.
If that was the case, then there would be a lot of Michael Jordans in the league. There would be a lot of Kobe's. There would be a lot of LeBrons or Steph Curry's. If you look on it, it's only like a handful of great basketball players on a team of what I don't know on a team, and then I don't know out of how many players. The same way with every sport, there's only a handful of great players, and everybody's not wired the same.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your willingness to go along with the questions. I really do.
I love it.
Yeah. Tia, let me ask you this. So I actually coach youth football and middle school football, and I have a 10-year-old son. And let me tell you this. His name's Hunter. He is a giant fan of yours. And part of the reason so many of these young kids are still big fans of you is because of Madden. Madden has their ultimate teams out. Hunter uses T.O. is his guy, right, on Madden.
Oh, yeah.
Are you aware of this stuff? Do you hear a lot about this? Do players that have retired like this stuff with the Madden, keeping them alive with these ultimate teams?
Yeah, that was an endorsement deal that I entered into, obviously for my likeness to be, put on those type of games. So I'm aware of it. And so obviously there's these ratings that, obviously, like I said, that emulate really kind of our production of what we did on the football field. And so, again, I think it's good for the game because sometimes, like I said, when people start, talking about who's the greatest of all time and, per position or what have you, all about the now. So sometimes they can't go back 5 and 10 to 15 years to see what greatness is. And so, these kids now, social media has changed the game in a bit to where, again, you can make a one or two highlight catches and everybody puts you automatically in the great stratosphere. And I don't think that's fair. It's good for social media. It's good for the era of where these guys are now. But it gives a false pretense of really how good you can measure, average, good, and great athletes are. So just because you make a couple of great catches here and there, that doesn't make you a great football. Talk about being great, and you basically it's all about consistency. How can you do it on an everyday basis and a year-to-year basis? You can't just do it 1 year here and you have a couple of down years, or you do have a couple of great years here and there, and then you fall off 2 and 3 there. It's all consistency, and I think that's what I did every year. If you look at my stats after the year that I made that catch, you will see a trajectory of my greatness. And I say that, and I say that humbly because, again, at the end of the day, I never thought I would play beyond the collegiate level. So now to be talking to me about, me being on Madden games and kids now recognizing who I am, it's awesome. It's awesome to hear.
T.O., can we transition real quick to the Browns? Now, the Browns were bad for so long. It looks like they finally are in the right direction. What's your take on the Browns, Baker Mayfield, the current Browns? What do you think of the Browns as an organization now?
Oh, man, I honestly, I'm so proud of Baker, honestly. If you've seen the maturity, the maturation process, not only of his game on the field, but who he is off the field as well. I think he's realized too, not to get too caught up in the media hype, not to really cater to the media. Really, I think when he's into that football season, that's what matters most, and that's what should matter most. He should prioritize himself, his quarterbacking skills, his leadership, what he can do for the Browns organization, and I think you saw that down the stretch of the season. I think a lot of things was put on his shoulders kind of unexpectedly when Odell Beckham Jr. went out. I think he kind of realized, like, okay, one of my main guys went down. Not that they were having a whole lot of success with him in the lineup, but I think he saw that, okay, let me allow the players around me to help win games. Ultimately, he has to realize, he's going to get the credit for the wins and the losses. That's what comes with being a quarterback. That's what comes with being the leader of the team. And I think somehow, somewhere that clicked. And so he allowed him just going out there trying to win games on his own. He allowed the players around him to really flourish as an offensive unit. And ultimately, he saw that the results will obviously fall on his shoulder.
Yep. And you haven't been shy about, putting pressure on Baker and having, hey, he needs to produce, he needs to step it up. And so just as a Browns fan who have been searching for a franchise quarterback, T.O., for 2 decades, even when you were in the league still, it is just unbelievable and kind of like pinch us. We're dreaming that we have a franchise quarterback. If you were the Browns, would you extend Baker like yesterday?
I don't know if I would extend him just yet. I think you saw glimpses of what the projections of why they drafted him, the potential that he has. Mm-hmm. Let's see how that the results and the production and the things that he did last year, toward the end of last year, if that can really roll over into this upcoming season. I think if he's having that same success, I think you re-up somewhere mid-season. If his progression and his skill set and the wins start mounting up, then I think that's when you go back to the table and you reassess and like, okay, well, this is the guy of the future. But I think that's the mistake that some people make so many times, is that you see just a glimpse of what someone can do, and then you lock them in, and then then they just fall off. Then they're going to be subject to more criticism, because now it's going to be about, oh, they just paid him all this money, blah, blah, blah. Now they, it's going to hurt them down the road, because that money is going to be held up against the cap and all types of stuff. So I wouldn't just invest in him just yet. But like I said, he's definitely on the right path, the right track to success and stardom, which he already has. And I think, like I said, this last year, I honestly was rooting for them in the playoffs. I hate that they lost, but I mean, they went up against some great opponents, and they put themselves in a great position to win at the end.
I'm ready to sign him yesterday. Like, I understand, like, that's like, you had the logical answer there, T.O., but I just, for a fan, which is Jeremy and I are hyper fans or whatever, like, I'm ready to commit. I'm ready to buy the house, buy the ring, whatever we need to do to keep him here. And that's, I think, just because we just have a glimpse of like true quarterback play. And so,
well, I mean, that kind of goes into what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
About certain guys, like, they show glimpses, and then, there's a lull, there's a lapse in there. And again, you saw in the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah, there wasn't any consistency. So again, you saw some of that in the beginning with Baker. Then he took a big dip. He took a big dip, and then then he was on the rise again. So whatever happened, I think there was something that happened that shifted once Odell Beckham was injured. There was something that shifted. I don't know if it was game planning. I don't know if it was something that he saw in himself and took it upon himself to lead as a quarterback, to allow those guys, especially on the offensive side of the ball, to really up his game, level it out, bring his level of play to the defensive side of the ball's play. And that's why they were very, very successful toward the end, because it was, the defense, they're stout. They were playing lights out. And again, they gave Baker Mayfield and that offense some opportunities to put points on the board.
Well, Tio, this has just been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. You can visit their website, pressplaypodcast.com. Tio, where can we find you online? And give us one more shout out with 81.
You can find me on pretty much all my social media platforms that are out there right now. Even Clubhouse at Terrell Owens, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. And yeah, I'm all over Facebook. Facebook is Facebook at terrellowens.com. I have a fan page and a personal page, but you'll be able to find me. Other than that, man, I've just been working on a few projects here and there. I definitely want to get into the supplement and nutrition space, fitness space. So definitely be looking out for that. I have a clothing line that will be launching here pretty soon, hopefully within the next couple of months. It's called Prototype 81. That will consist of, it'll be unisex. It'll consist of men and women. And with the apparel, it'll be hoodies, joggers, crop tops, leggings, T-shirts, things of that nature. I'm doing a Kobe tribute collection as well. Kobe was a good friend of mine. So obviously, and 10% of the proceeds from those items sold will be going to the Mamba and Mambacita Foundation. Like I said, I think the world of Kobe. Obviously, a tragic loss with not only his daughter, but the other 8 that were on that helicopter. So I want to do whatever I can to really kind of extend what he was doing there with the academy and everything associated with his foundation. Obviously, Vanessa and things that they're doing with that. And then last but not least, I'm working on this wine called 81. So everybody that's listening, go find it. Let me know the feedback when you get it, when you buy it. You go to 81vino.com. It's online only for right now, but we will be extending the wine collection next year. I've already got confirmation for that. So all everybody out there for the love and support that they've shown me thus far. And then again, that part of me wanting to do this, part of the packaging of me wanting to get into this wine space was really because I understood the wine kind of explained it to me, and I realized that there's a big wine community out there. So I wanted to honestly give back to my fans. And so I know a lot of fans are and non-fans that are out there that even watch me play, just appreciated what I brought to the game. So that this wine is for the fans out there. So definitely go get it. If you like a Cabernet blend, it's 95% Cab, 5% Syrah. Go to 81vino.com.
Absolutely love it. Love it. Tio, thank you so much, brother. Jeremy, any final thoughts?
Tio, again, this is huge for my kid. My kid was not going to wait to hear this, hear you talking on here. So for more, or even me than for my son. So thanks so much for joining us. We wish you nothing but.
Tell Hunter. Yeah, tell Hunter I said what's up, and keep scoring those touchdowns. Don't never take me out. Throw the ball to Tio.
We will. Thank you so much, man. This has been awesome.
Absolutely.
Love it. All right, we'll catch you guys here in a couple weeks. We got the Browns off season about to kick off in high gear, and we'll be with you all off season long going into, Jeremy, I think our 4th season or 5th season. I don't know, but we're not going anywhere. All right, catch you guys later.